Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica, a 45-year-old graphic designer and children's book author. Art and storytelling are my passions. I grew up with two significant friends, Bruce and Lisa. Bruce, who eventually became my husband, surprised me after high school by asking me out just as I was about to attend a different college. Despite my shock, knowing his previous interest in Lisa, I couldn't decline. My feelings for Bruce had been quietly simmering for a while. After consulting with Lisa, I accepted his proposal, although Lisa had always been somewhat problematic since our teenage years. She had a troubling pattern of enticing men away from their partners, only to lose interest once they fell for her, which caused endless drama. However, she remained a dear friend to both Bruce and me, so we often included her in our plans to keep an eye on her. Bruce and I tied the knot when we were 26. 3 years into our marriage, Lisa introduced us to her fiancé, Matthew, a polished professional from a top-tier company. "It's so nice to meet you, Jessica and Bruce. I've heard a lot about you both and look forward to our times together," Matthew had said. He was exceedingly courteous, and we all clicked immediately, often gathering for holidays or embarking on long train journeys to unwind with some drinks. However, our dynamic began to unravel when Lisa fell pregnant 2 years into her marriage. Bruce and I, having grown up in large families, had decided against having children of our own. We adored kids, but cherished our independence and the ability to travel freely more. Witnessing families with children always warmed our hearts during our outings, but Bruce and I had decided that having our children wasn't for us. Despite this, our feelings were shaken when Lisa announced her pregnancy. Bruce began altering his habits for Lisa's comfort, quitting smoking because she couldn't stand the smell, and even using his vacation days to drive her to doctor's appointments. I cautioned him, worried about Matthew's feelings, but Bruce dismissed my concerns. "She needs us, and you're busy with work besides, aren't we, her friends?" I tried to support Lisa in my way, buying necessities and offering emotional support, but I felt Bruce escorting her to every obstetrician visit was excessive. When I voiced this, Bruce snapped, "Lisa's anxious about her appointments, and I can't let her go alone." I argued that it was Matthew's place to support her, not his. "You're acting like you're the father of this child." This accusation led Bruce to retort, "Well, it's not like you're going to have a baby anyway." His dismissive attitude hurt deeply, and our once peaceful marriage began to strain under frequent arguments. The tension didn't ease even after Lisa gave birth to her daughter, Teresa. Bruce's time spent with Lisa and Teresa only increased. When Teresa was 7, a new issue arose around her kindergarten graduation ceremony. The day before the event, I found Bruce frantically searching through our closet. "What are you doing?" I asked, surprised by the mess. "I'm trying to figure out what to wear for the graduation tomorrow," he explained. His workplace usually had a casual dress code, but he kept suits for client meetings, all of which were now strewn across the bed. "You're seriously thinking of attending the graduation?" I questioned, my voice rising in disbelief. Bruce's face soured immediately. "Matthew can't make it. Lisa asked me to come," he justified. It seemed completely unreasonable for Bruce, merely a childhood friend and not a biological parent, to attend such a personal family event. This escalated our disagreement further. "Do you still doubt my intentions?" Bruce challenged, unable to hide his irritation. His involvement with Teresa had always been supportive, like picking her up from kindergarten when needed. But his eagerness to step into this familial role unnerved me, intensifying our conflicts and deepening the rift between us. Amidst the whirl of emotions and preparations for Teresa's kindergarten graduation, Bruce dropped a bombshell. "Iron a shirt for me. I'm attending the graduation tomorrow," he said curtly, ending the discussion and walking to our bedroom. Feeling cornered and helpless, I picked up the phone and dialed Lisa. "Hello, Lisa. About tomorrow. I heard you're having Bruce come along. Won't Matthew be upset about missing the graduation? I ventured cautiously. Jessica, what are you talking about? Matthew doesn't even know the graduation is tomorrow. I'll tell him afterward, Lisa replied nonchalantly, revealing she hadn't informed her husband about any of the kindergarten events thus far. Bruce had been stepping into the role of the father, a revelation that left me reeling from its sheer selfishness. Lisa, isn't that extremely unfair to Matthew? It's not right for Bruce to take his place just because they're childhood friends, I argued. What's wrong, Jessica? You're overreacting. See you tomorrow. Lisa dismissed my concerns and hung up abruptly, leaving me shaking with anger and disbelief. Yet, despite my frustration, I found myself ironing Bruce's shirt and preparing his tie for the next morning. I watched him leave for Teresa's graduation, feeling a mix of betrayal and resignation. As Bruce and Lisa began spending more time together, escalating from monthly outings to weekly, and then thrice-weekly excursions, even Matthew started to harbor suspicions. One night, he came over to our house while Bruce and Lisa were out. "I'm sorry to visit so late, but something is troubling me," Matthew began, his voice laden with concern. "Is it about them?" I asked, already dreading the confirmation of my suspicions. "Yes," he replied, pulling out his phone to show me the GPS history from Lisa's car. It showed frequent visits to a hotel on the days she was out with Bruce. The pain and betrayal written across Matthew's face mirrored my feelings. "What do you want to do, Matthew?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I want to take action against them. I can't just let this go," he declared, a steely resolve in his eyes. "Me too. I can't forgive their betrayal," I agreed, feeling a fierce determination to stand up for ourselves. Together, we began to plot our course of revenge discreetly. I started by increasing my income, having previously reduced my professional activities to focus on household responsibilities. Meanwhile, Matthew transitioned to working from home, enabling him to take care of Teresa when Lisa and Bruce went out. He would often bring Teresa over to my place, allowing us to discuss our plans under the guise of playdates. This arrangement not only provided an alibi for our meetings, but also reinforced our bond as we navigated this turbulent chapter together. Matthew and I found ourselves increasingly involved in taking care of Teresa, while Lisa and Bruce remained oblivious to our knowledge of their secret relationship. During this time, we meticulously gathered concrete evidence of their deceit. Just as we were preparing to enact our revenge, a startling revelation about Teresa made us pause. After much deliberation, Matthew and I decided to delay our plans until Teresa was older, wanting to shield her from any fallout. However, life threw another curveball when I was diagnosed with a serious illness that required long-term hospitalization. I was told I wouldn't be discharged for at least 2 years, and even then, my work capacity would be significantly diminished. I shared this news with Matthew, and reluctantly, I also reached out to Bruce for support. But Bruce's response was dishearteningly nonchalant. "I'll visit once in a while," he said casually, without even inquiring about the specifics of my health or my treatment. True to his word, Bruce's visits were sparse, occurring maybe once a month or every 3 months. Meanwhile, Teresa, who initially visited me almost daily, began to distance herself after her 14th birthday. Matthew and I were baffled by her change in behavior. Even when questioned, Teresa simply reassured us not to worry, yet did not explain. The truth finally came out during one of Bruce's rare appearances. He arrived flaunting a noticeably more extravagant style, and without a preamble, he thrust a business card for a divorce lawyer into my hand. Divorcing a wife who doesn't work? I think $1,200 a month in alimony should do. "Take care," he declared with a grin, Lisa smirking at his side. "Fine, let's divorce then," I responded with a calm that seemed to momentarily stun him, but he quickly recovered, sharing a smug smile with Lisa. It was fortunate Bruce wasn't one to think things through deeply. His oversight would play right into the plans I had been quietly shaping. After the divorce was finalized, a notification confirmed by Bruce himself, I was ready to initiate my revenge against both of them. With all the pieces in place, my resolve hardened, fueled not just by betrayal, but by the necessity to act, not for myself alone, but for the integrity of the relationships they had so carelessly discarded. In the wake of my illness and recovery, I was determined to reshape my life and settle scores in the process. My first step was coordinating with Matthew to relocate closer to the hospital where I was now being treated. This move was strategic, not only for my health, but also to consolidate our efforts for what was to come. With Matthew and Teresa now living nearby, their visits became a daily comfort. Despite Teresa's subdued demeanor, I was relieved to see her each day, a stark contrast to the isolation I felt from Bruce and Lisa. Before my hospital transfer, I instructed Bruce to clear out the remainder of my belongings from our shared home. I wanted nothing from that house to follow me, nothing tainted by their deceit. As things settled with my new living arrangements, I received an unexpected flurry of calls from Bruce, showing 30 missed calls in just a few minutes. I answered, already wearied by the impending confrontation. Bruce was frantic, his voice overlapping with a bewildered property agent and Lisa's distant shouts. "What the hell is going on?" Bruce demanded, clearly agitated. "It's about the house, Bruce. You need to move out," I replied calmly, my tone masking the satisfaction of turning the tables. Bruce seemed genuinely confused. "Why do we have to move out?" he blurted as if the situation was somehow my fault. "Because it's my house, Bruce," I stated flatly. He had apparently forgotten that the house we lived in was originally rented by me as a workspace when I began freelancing. Back then, my income wasn't enough to maintain 2 residences, and Bruce, unable to afford a place on his own, had moved in with me. He never contributed to the rent or utilities, only occasionally chipping in for living expenses, which barely covered anything. Unbeknownst to him, I had already canceled the lease the day after I filed for divorce. I chose not to inform him directly, leaving that to the property agent who was aware of the full situation. Caught off guard by the sudden cancellation and the sale of our house, orchestrated without their knowledge, Bruce was in a panic. "What are we going to do about our new house?" he asked, his voice laced with desperation. "I don't know, Bruce. Maybe stay in a business hotel for now," I suggested nonchalantly, turning on the speakerphone to better manage the conversation as I prepared for the next phases of my plan and my new life, free from their shadows. In a complex and emotional separation, Bruce's call caught me off guard. His voice was initially filled with frustration. "Don't mess with me!" he bellowed. However, sensing the gravity of the situation, his tone quickly softened. "So, when will you transfer the money? We're running low on cash," he inquired, his voice laced with a hint of desperation. "What are you talking about? I don't remember agreeing to send you $12,000, I responded, my tone neutral but firm. Bruce's response was a cacophony of angry yells, clearly under the impression that he could manipulate me into providing financial support, which he seemed to have already recklessly spent. "Hey, don't just stay silent, say something," he demanded. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied, cutting the conversation short. This left Bruce momentarily speechless, but he quickly resumed his tirade. Attempting to maintain composure, I addressed him with a forced cheerfulness. "We're strangers now, Bruce. Please, let's not contact each other anymore. You'll hear from my lawyer if needed." "What? Lawyer? Hey, wait." Bruce tried to interject, but I hung up without waiting for him to finish. He attempted to call back several times, but I ignored each one. Frustrated by my lack of response, Bruce began ignoring calls from my lawyer too. His childish behavior surprised me, but it also underscored his willingness to create disruptions. A few months later, after a temporary discharge from the hospital, I decided to visit Bruce's parents' home. There, I found Bruce and Lisa, both appearing small and anxious. "You telling my parents is a low blow," Bruce accused, his voice tense. "I just shared that we got divorced," I explained calmly, and Bruce, faced with his father's stern look, visibly shrank back. Despite the divorce, I had maintained a good relationship with my in-laws, often visiting them independently of Bruce, and felt it was important they knew the truth from me. "Is it true that you're planning to marry Lisa and start a new family?" I asked Lisa directly. "Yes, it's true," she confirmed quietly, a hint of unease in her voice. Bruce interjected, "She's not my family anymore," as if to emphasize his new life choices. His father, clearly disapproving, frowned deeply, his expression conveying a silent reprimand. At that moment, Bruce handed me a piece of paper. It was a bill from a nearby luxury hotel. "What's this?" I asked, puzzled. "It's the bill from the hotel we stayed at," Bruce stated matter-of-factly, as if it were obvious and I should understand without further explanation. His gesture, expecting me to shoulder yet another responsibility, was a stark reminder of the complexities and the lingering ties of our once shared life. In a tense family gathering, the atmosphere suddenly shifted as my mother-in-law, struggling for breath, collapsed into a chair. Her reaction was one of shock and dismay. Bruce and Lisa, standing beside her, mirrored her expression of disbelief. Lisa defensively tried to justify herself. "Why are you so upset? It's just that the family dynamic is changing because I'm getting married, and you'll finally have a biological grandchild. Aren't you thrilled?" The room was thick with tension. My mother-in-law looked from Lisa to me, her expression laden with confusion and hurt. Both my in-laws had always treated me as their daughter, understanding and respecting my decision not to have children. Lisa, though close like a family friend, was always just that, a friend and not a daughter-in-law. Lisa herself had often voiced her frustration about this subtle distinction, so it was clear she understood the sensitivity of the situation. "Do you understand? Teresa will be your grandchild. You should be happy, right? She's practically family already." Lisa pressed on, oblivious or indifferent to the discomfort she was causing. "It's not just about blood relations," my mother-in-law finally said, her voice shaky. "It's about the bonds we've built over years, which you seem ready to disregard." At that moment, Teresa, who had been quietly absorbed in her smartphone in the corner, finally spoke up, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Enough already. It's disgusting," she said flatly, not even looking up from her device. The room fell into a stunned silence. "My dad is the only one I consider my father, blood-related or not. He's the only one," Teresa continued, her words deliberate. "I know Bruce has been around for my school events, but I also know he was always informed after they happened. Even the events themselves were often kept from him. But Dad has always told me I am his daughter, and that's all that matters. I will never consider you my parent, Lisa." Teresa's words hung heavily in the air. She then moved to sit next to me, her tone softening. "When I found out about all this, I was afraid you'd hate me, but Dad told me that wasn't true." Her voice trembled slightly. "Teresa, I love you so much," I responded, my voice choked with emotion. "You visiting me every day in the hospital meant the world to me." At my words, Teresa, perhaps feeling a weight lifted off her shoulders, teared up and hugged me tightly. In that moment, it was clear that the bond between us was defined not by deceit or betrayal, but by genuine affection and understanding, a stark contrast to the chaos that seemed to surround us. For the past 14 years, I have cared deeply for Teresa. There was never a question about my affection for her. So, when the truth about Teresa being Bruce's daughter came out, I wasn't as shocked as one might expect. Before Lisa could process my composed reaction, another twist unfolded. Matthew entered the room unexpectedly. He was still technically Lisa's husband, as she had hastily demanded a divorce citing irreconcilable differences without finalizing the proceedings. "I was stunned when you mentioned the divorce," Matthew said, holding up the still unprocessed divorce papers. "You realize these haven't gone through yet, right? There's still a mandatory waiting period." Lisa caught off guard and couldn't hide her surprise. The realization dawned on her that she was still legally married to Matthew, and by extension, Teresa was still legally his daughter. At this revelation, Lisa tried to sway the narrative. "Teresa wants to be with her mom, right?" she said, looking hopefully at Teresa. Teresa, however, frowned at Lisa and took my hand in solidarity, leaving Lisa speechless and visibly upset. Bruce, misinterpreting the dynamics and trying to lighten the mood, burst into laughter. "So you two are together, huh? But too bad, isn't it impossible to live on just Matthew's salary?" His assumption was not only wrong, but also ill-timed. "Can you stop with these weird assumptions?" I retorted. "For your information, Matthew makes double what you think," Bruce scoffed, dismissive of the claim, and then tried to jab at me. "Besides, with your illness, you can't work. You'll just end up miserably somewhere." That's when I couldn't help but laugh at Bruce's massive misunderstanding. "You didn't know about my income, did you? It's not what you think. I earn $480,000 annually." Bruce's and Lisa's expressions shifted to sheer astonishment. "Over the past decade, I have become a successful children's book author, with my income significantly boosted by essays, interviews, and the like. Moreover, a film adaptation of one of my books was in the works, promising even more financial stability." "Liar," Bruce muttered, still in disbelief. "Do you want to see for yourself?" I challenged, pulling up my bank account on my phone to show them the substantial monthly deposits. Lisa, confronted with undeniable proof, was left utterly speechless, her earlier confidence evaporating as the screen displayed my success. Jessica watched the unfolding scene with a mix of astonishment and detachment. Bruce, suddenly keen to mend bridges, perhaps motivated by glimpses of her financial success, clumsily suggested they make up. Lisa, visibly angered by Bruce's sudden shift in attitude and seemingly blinded by the potential financial benefits, was furious. "If you want to get married, go ahead," Jessica said coolly, her voice laced with indifference but firm in her resolve. "And remember, I'll be expecting compensation for the damages." "Wait, Jessica," Bruce called out after her, but she didn't pause. Taking Teresa's hand, she bid her in-laws a respectful farewell and walked out of the house, leaving a bewildered Bruce and an enraged Lisa behind. Bruce's career had taken a nosedive after it was discovered he lied about his work activities while employed at his father-in-law's company. As a consequence, he was dismissed and, in a twist of familial intervention, was set to work on a friend's fishing boat, an arduous fate for someone who preferred indoor comforts. Despite several attempts to reach out to Jessica for help, she informed his father-in-law each time, and eventually, Bruce stopped calling. Meanwhile, Lisa, having lost custody of Teresa to Matthew and facing divorce, found herself isolated. Her family had disowned her, and without any work experience or practical skills, she struggled to secure a full-time job. Resigned to her new reality, she juggled multiple part-time jobs to barely make ends meet, along with her responsibilities for child support. Teresa, on the other hand, thrived in her new environment. Driven and diligent, she focused on her studies with dreams of studying abroad and attending a prestigious university overseas. Her ambition was to translate Jessica's picture books and share them with children around the world, a goal that filled Jessica with immense pride. As for Jessica, her career as a children's book author continued to flourish. Offers for animation adaptations and merchandise deals were pouring in. Her health was also improving. Despite still being hospitalized, her doctor was optimistic that she might be discharged the following year. During this period, Matthew, who visited daily with Teresa, expressed his feelings for Jessica, hinting at remarriage. While Jessica was touched by his proposal and entertain thoughts of a future together, she hadn't yet given her response. She was focused on her recovery and continuing her passion for writing picture books, each day weaving new stories that spoke of hope and happiness, contemplating a promising future with Matthew and Teresa by her side.